Hello, welcome to the latest monthly view covering current lease default rates and airline failures. With Q1 results now trickling in, we are avidly following the patterns encountered by the world fleets, and so far the US majors have produced positive results despite 737 MAX flight cancellations, such there is no significant deviation from Q1 2018. But we aren't quite expecting others in the East to fare quite so well. Now, if we look at some charts to show how this is progressing, if we move over to chart number 1, if we look at year to date and airline failures for all types up to the end of April, accounting just for Jet and Avianca Brazil early returns, which have been the highlight part of the press for the past 6 months, we can see that failures have generally been tracking quite well with oil over time, and 2019 is gradually starting to pick up. But more importantly, when we look at the year-to-date chart on the far left-hand side, we can see how the airline and aircraft failures have been tracking up considerably compared to the previous high point, which was in 2011, 12 and 13. So, of course, it's early days for Jet Airways and Avianca Brazil. We are seeing a large number of aircraft returning back to their lessors. And there is a potential reprieve for Jet Airways that will be coming out later in May, so we'll be keeping an eye on that one. But if we move over towards a more what-if scenario, and moving on to slide 2, and this is where we assume that Jet and Avianca Brazil both fail and all aircraft return back to the lessors, then we see a considerable uptick relatively early on in the year compared to previous years, as we can see from the year-to-date chart, where the numbers of aircraft that have returned have considerably outstripped prior years going back through over the last 10 years. This will have a serious implication for the liquidity of aircraft trading prior to the busy summer period, and of course a lot of these aircraft will not be able to be placed in time for the high demand that the 737 cancellations will have led to. Now, there's a further situation if we move to another what if, and that's if we bring in some other airlines that are around the world that are experiencing problems, in particular Hong Kong Airlines and Asiana as well, which have been going through considerable financial difficulties. Now, moving on to slide number 3, this is the extreme what if, and this is where we considered those 4 carriers where full failures have gone right through, and we see a significant increase in aircraft returning to lessors or being grounded and remarketed, which outstrips any prior year that covers back to the last 20 years, which is a significant shift and a significant signal that the downturn is underway. Now, of course, these what-if scenarios are purely speculative. Airlines are very fixated on cost, and with the 737 MAX issues as well, that situation has been compounded somewhat. And certainly some airlines, particularly Norwegian, who've got a relatively large fleet of 737 MAXs and rely on those aircraft for those leaner routes, it's going to be particularly key. Now, compared to other years, the number of actual airlines that have failed is still relatively low compared to where we've seen, say, in 2008 and 2011 and 12. This time round, it's the number of aircraft that are actually involved. We haven't seen a sizable increase since the sort of Air Berlin and Monarch years, and we've only really seen very small airlines fail. The key issues will be that obviously a large number of these aircraft will come from lessors, so we'll expect to see some shifting on the lease rentals, although to counter the effect of the cancellation of flights of 737 MAXs, we may see stabilisation for the next few months. Well, that's our current view as of the end of April. Please watch out for any further updates we'll have over the coming weeks as the situation progresses.